Chapter 41. The Lord Who is Half Woman. I set out after the truth, but has the truth harmed anyone? I feel that what harms us is to persist in self-deceit and ignorance. After all, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when creating them. We live in a world run by lies, greed, and arrogance. There we are led by the masculine dragon named Satan as it spews an empty promise. And so I ask the leaders of our world, are you expressing yourself in service of life? Or are you in the service of commerce? Whatever be the cost, for the thing which men and women have called harmony, and which nature knows as perfect, is worth all that must be paid for it. There in the depths, some of us journey beyond where the body and mind can go. And so my arms sank around the body of my teacher. There I embraced the great white buffalo. To feel is to be human, but to forgive is divine. Some might say that it'll all be okay, in the hopes that maybe I snap out of it. They might tell me to open up my heart, or to release the pain and let it go. But when we feel loss, we feel an emptiness in our lives of something that has never been known. Someone might try to guide us, and they'd say, well, you're stuck in the underworld, so it's best you climb out. And they might even say, if you go from the 7th layer to the 6th, then to the 5th, then on to the 4th, then to the 3rd, the 2nd, and the 1st, oh, that's the right route. But try to give someone advice when they're stuck in quicksand. It's easy to guide someone else when it's not you who happens to be sinking. The more I seemed to move, the more I couldn't cope. And so there's no good advice in this situation but to surrender, lay back, and float. I laid with the white buffalo in my arms, for I have loved and I have lost, but am I better off? And so I rose, because I wanted to honor the one who led me. If nothing else, I would carry him up to the surface and offer my life to his legacy. Now, what we go through in these types of situations is called a spiritual emergency. This transformation is different from psychiatric disorders, and so I saw this bewildering path to the bottom of the underworld as a sort of a spiritual surgery. This is the message of alchemy, when insanity is a blessing. And so the world's oldest religion and humanity's most ancient healing art is called shamanism. Shaman is a term used by anthropologists for a special kind of medicine man or woman, or witch doctor, who regularly enters non-ordinary states of consciousness to heal, obtain information by extrasensory means, or conduct rituals to influence weather or animals. Shamanism is universal, and the path of many shamans begins with a dramatic episode of an altered state of consciousness that traditional Western psychiatry sees as a manifestation of serious mental disease. It includes visionary experiences of descents into the underworld, attacks from demons, and inhuman tortures and ordeals, followed by a sequence of dying and being reborn, and subsequent ascents into celestial realms. During this time, the future shaman can experience a wide spectrum of extreme emotions and behave in the most unusual ways. These symptoms suggest a grave psychiatric disorder when judged by Western medical standards. Yet, when this crisis is successfully finished and completed, it results in personal healing, superior and social function, and the development of shamanic abilities. However, it is important to emphasize that strange experiences in themselves are not enough to qualify one as a shaman. Being a shaman requires a successful completion of the episodes and return to the full function in everyday life. In Western culture and medicine, we have declared total war on sickness and death. On death, because it signifies the end of our earthly existence, and on sickness because it impairs our enjoyment to life. If we were able to understand sickness and suffering as a process of physical and psychic transformation, we would gain a deeper and less biased view of psychosomatic and psychospiritual processes and begin to realize the many opportunities presented by suffering and the death of the ego. It's obvious that these feelings along the path are not comfortable, but imagine any great healer or hero you may know. They have withstood great challenges and opposition, and that is where their strength lies, which allows them to grow. When we are suffering, it hurts in the body and mind, but what if it's opening up new gateways for us to experience the divine? For traditional cultures view sickness, suffering, and death as manifestations of the body's inherent wisdom, to which we only have to surrender to reach areas of perception capable of revealing the true basis of our earthly existence. No one wants to die. No one wants to lose anyone we love. But what if by allowing a person to leave the kingdom of the body and the kingdom of the mind, they are actually ascending into the kingdom of the spirit, up into the divine? Sickness and suffering could be seen as a process that cleanses us of the bad habits we have accumulated by our false attitude to life. Sickness is then a call for self-realization, self-development, and in extreme cases, a variety of shamanic initiation. So how does one become a shaman? Sickness will seize them. After sickness, after torture, while ailing, a future shaman will look into dreams and will see many things, being beaten up several times, sometimes taken to strange places. He or she who is seized by the shaman's sickness will suffer badly. He or she may struggle with the mind and may even have to give up on aspects of their life. Therefore, they would be advised, you must take up shamanism so as not to suffer. Some even say, I became a shaman only to escape illness. The man or woman chosen for shamanism is recognized by the black spirits. The spirits of the dead shamans are called black spirits. They make the chosen one ill, and then they force them to become a shaman. This is a shaman's call. And so the journey of life may appear like a journey with a body, but we are actually using the body in search of something worthy to find. We navigate this path by using the body and directing it by the power of the mind. The body and mind are tools of the soul. If we wanted to summarize the effect of a long psychosomatic sickness on a shaman or alchemist, we would have to say that the essential criteria lies in their talent to enter into an intensified exchange with reality, thereby transcending the material differentiations between objects and people. It lies in the very nature of the shaman to perceive the pulse of the universe in themselves and others, and by going along with it, to influence and change it. This approach is based on empathy and unity with actual life forces, and therefore is very unfriendly and seemingly incompatible in ways of normal human life, and appears to clash with the materialistic philosophy. A sickness that is understood as a process of purification is the onset of enhanced psychic sensitivity, which gives access to the hidden and highest potentials of the human existence. According to the modern view, illness disrupts and endangers life, but the alchemist experiences the sickness as a call to destroy this old life within, so as to hear, see, and live it more fully and completely in a higher state of awareness to support all others. The symptoms of the alchemical process, or the shaman's sickness, are in most cases confused, undefinable, and follow no known pattern. Initiates become holy fools who systematically put the world on its head or indulge in unworthy, shameless, and perverse behavior incompatible with established morality. The holy fool exposes the limitations of human criteria, confronts us anew with the undefined nature of our cosmic existence, leads us backstage to make us aware of the artificial aspect of our cultural values, and then shows us a world without limit, because it is neither categorized nor ordered in accordance with artificial opposites. The sick gesture removes these opposites, tears down external and interior barriers, and causes us to tumble head over heels from our tailor-made world of lines and differentiations into a more comprehensive and holistic dimension that has no beginning or end. We have seen not only that the alchemist and shaman's life is affected, but the whole family may be visited by the presence of this energy as well. Some may see this as sickness and suffering, some may call it misfortune. But as we remember the moral of this story, within every curse exists a holy blessing. Once an alchemist or shaman accepts this responsibility, it is then the divine's duty to care for the souls of the family and friends so that their souls are not forsaken. Although the cause may lead to suffering that appears in the body and mind, it is an opening upon the pathway back home to the divine. The alchemist journeys to the beyond, to what is called the edge of the world, which we can take to mean the limits of human existence. Equipped with qualities normally found only in spirits or spirit animals, and made sacred by contact with the bringers of life, the alchemist now truly has eyes that can see and ears that can truly hear. The alchemist or shaman now has a split soul, or a second heart, or feels like a house of dreams. The sacredness of the whole world has given him or her power, and thereby chosen him or her, sometimes against his or her own will, to act in accordance with his or her expanded knowledge of being, and to introduce this knowledge to the human world. The alchemist or shaman has been caught by the spirit and must serve the spiritual world. Recall the three kingdoms: the kingdom of the body, the kingdom of the mind, and the kingdom of the divine. Nothing lasts in the body, and we may be blocked or trapped by the mind, but it is the kingdom of the spirit that is eternal, and so we exist through the body and mind to gain and experience the lessons we are meant to find. Nothing is permanent in the body or mind, but rather everything is changing. The world tries to teach us how it really is, but unfortunately, many leaders of the world have betrayed people, creatures, and the earth itself throughout our history. Creation, then, is not a business, but it is a work of art. In the same way, nothing lasts forever, and we all have a limited number of beats left within our hearts. To be in the business world of the current age often means we must manage the situation and be in control. But to be involved in any sort of art requires surrender, so that we come face to face with the true nature of our purpose and soul. Art, then, is wholeness, and in time, every business will come to cease or die. Why, no man can sell a cloud, but rather an artist can tell a cloud story through the imagination as it drifts by. In business we find solutions and advancements, but in art we discover the crowning moment called the apotheosis. In business, life is never quite fair, but through art we are reminded of our wholeness. Why, it's wholeness that our world requires. Unity embodies the impulse towards self-realization and indicates the path we must follow, not from ulterior motives, but from the core of our individuality. In business, we seek to gain and profit in an attempt to control the inner workings of humanity. But in art, we surrender, let go, and embrace originality. For behind every business, there is a creative force, and this creation is the basis of art. Art, then, is the forefather to any business, and this creative source is known as our universe. When we seek to create something, we are seeking after wholeness, and yet what we are striving to create, in actuality, is what, by nature, that which we already are. To discover this innate wholeness is called dignity, and it requires no money. Yet the modern world seems to cloud us with many things, advertisements, and monopolies, where we are blinded by the true nature of our inward reality. So much of the world seeks success, power, and wealth, but no business can reclaim the essence of the soul. Yet a business may try to sell things that cover the soul, but just like our buildings, businesses, and modern cities, our goods and strategies will in time dissolve, and all we will be left with is our spiritual nature, which has always been complete and whole. And so there is a wise statement, and it says, "There's nowhere to stand." In order to be free, we start to notice what the world broadcasts to us. These campaigns and marketing tactics tell us what is desirable and what we should crave. Yet it actually imprisons the mind, and in time, each person upon the earth loses track of the true way. As we go deeper into divine study, we understand that to be is to be free. This means we are fully with what is, just as it is. What the leaders of the body and mind try to sell us is often not what we actually need. They'll even get so creative as to construct an offer that you cannot refuse that comes with a money-back guarantee. As monopolies seek profit, this is why the old ways of our world are condemned. Remember, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when creating them. There are enough resources for everyone, but what is it that holds us back? We have the full capacity to be at peace in this world, but yet it's more profitable to wage war and attack. The leaders of the world crave money and control to increase their investments. They hoard more and more and call this our country's revenue and assets. But the accumulation has ruined our world, and so the truth is an unpopular subject because it is unquestionably correct. The truth is the real teacher, which is within and is always available and open, where all knowledge is known. Just like a stream, we learn to go with less force and more flow. The ways of our world may try to monopolize and make the individual person rich, but in turn, we pollute the body and mind with desires for success and achievements, where an alchemist has grown to let go of it. We've been persuaded to want shiny things, why I myself am not safe from the lure of a good deal. But it distracts us from the truth that is underneath the illusion, and so not everyone is ready for the real. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for the kingdom of heaven shall be theirs. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the humble and meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who are hungry and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. What if we gave back to the world? What if all success benefited the people, plants, and creatures of the earth? These people in service are then the real heroes, not measured by money, houses, or cars, but the ones who have offered up their accumulations and enter into the spiritual burn. That's where we find ourselves now, as the burn is the metaphorical resistance between where you are and where you are called to be. Everybody can get to the burn, but that's where most people stop. Most want it their way. They want to get paid, and so they sell their souls for the desires they crave. They cling to houses, cars, and land where they wish to remain. But it is not ours. In 100 years, who will these things belong to then? The earth will take everything from us. So who does it belong to in the very end? Entering into the burn gets hard. It gets challenging. When life gets tough and hot, that's when most people opt out. So many settle for money and comfort. Often we settle for material desires. We settle for familiar things, islands, beachfront property, and once we commit for our ego's desire, we have stepped out of the purifying fire. and life moves on. But for some, like the alchemist, we lean in. We step into the fire as an offering and sacrifice for the sake of a transformation. We offer it up, not for our own desires, but rather we let creation lead us, and that's why we burn in this sacred fire. We are forged through the process of alchemy to discover our potential. We surrender into an inner and outer metamorphosis, and by going where few dare to go, we are rewarded with the sacred gift that's reserved for the daring, the bold, and the courageous. Life is the real treasure, and this is wealth that cannot be sold from the soul. Our spiritual nature is greater than every castle, car, private island, or yacht. But why isn't this worth our world's aim and goal? If I gave you $100 million, on the condition that you can only take it if you don't live to see tomorrow, then you'd realize that life is worth more than anything else, and death proves that all wealth, money, and material is just something we happen to borrow. When will we remember that our spiritual nature can move mountains? That this is the treasure of the inner gold? Money will not save our world, but rather the ones who save our species exist within the spiritual army who are brave enough to surrender control. By offering our actions to God, we seek no gain in return, and so God's grace allows the path to unfold through those who are willing and ready to enter into the burn. As it was time to leave this dark cavern, I had to let go, and so I rose to my feet and took up the body of the great white buffalo. As we ascended through the circles of the underworld, I paused by the great cave of illusions, where the dark sorcerer polluted the minds of lost souls, while many beings remained asleep, mesmerized by the news, video games, social media, and television. But as I looked in the cave, there were quite a few empty places, and as I carried my teacher's body higher, I found that some of these souls had escaped the illusions of the sorcerer's darkness. This dark sorcerer caught me carrying the white buffalo upon my back, and so the illusion seemed to remain on autopilot. Now the sorcerer came closer, since it appeared he wanted to have a word in private.
How dare you distract them from the great business I have made? You have led the souls away from my marketing monopoly of illusions, and I will make sure the masses do not hear the spiritual stories you explain,
said the dark sorcerer. This was the one responsible for clouding the minds with muck. Housed in a little body, his impact was like an iceberg. His dirty tactics went much deeper under the surface, while he was responsible for covering much of our minds with filth and shit. As I looked to the illusions upon the cave, each vision was curated for a specific individual. He used AI and a team of dark sorcerers to program ads and would target the desires and triggers of an individual to carry out his selfish goals. He was distracting the spiritual soul, and he would even blackmail the seemingly helpless person with ads. He used programs to study the nature of a person's deepest desires and passions, and so he was a black magician that could turn people mad. He did this for the sake of power and money, yet he didn't realize his soul was trapped in the underworld. Maybe he was triggered since we were waking up to his illusions, and soon he was bound to enter into the sacred burn. Now, as the illusion was crumbling, it was only a matter of time. He was beginning to lose control over the masses, and so he no longer had control over his own mind. Living spiritually blind, trapped in his own illusion, he grasped for more and more control, and he only created more clouds of swirling illusions. There before my eyes, I could see the targeted ads he conjured to trigger me. He would try and distract me with images of women, trying to convince me of imaginary problems. But he wasn't a medical professional. He was a lonely, lost soul who was like the rest of us. We were all overwhelmed and needed a deep breath. Ease up, sorcerer. We're leaving your illusion because we're on our way to being freed. And so we passed by him, and that was the way to cut through the illusion. Simply stated, delete the apps and surrender. In essence, to be free, there are aspects of technology that must be deactivated. Whatever souls had climbed out from the illusion managed to find the divine being on the level above who was once a demon. This was the man who opened his heart, and he sat with the other souls who had been lost. And now this brave being had found a calling in healing and teaching. With just a glance, the lost souls from the illusion came to follow him and I as we walked side by side while we climbed higher. There we came to the second level of the underworld with the dream sorcerer. This dream sorcerer was the one who hypnotized me when he led me through a vicious nightmare. But now that I had put the dragon in his own cage, what else was there to fear? But all I smelled was fear, because this man was quite terrified when the new group of awakened wonders came near. "What's this?" he asked. "It's called justice." We tied him down to his altar, and that's where we were set to leave him. Maybe I'd come back in 1,000 years, and there I would check on him. I'd seen his tactic. He used fear to get his way. He opened the door through the mind and brought us to a nightmare situation, all so that this man could get paid. Fear is the world of darkness. It is black magic. And even if you're trying to sell someone something, using fear in business is black magic, and it's absolutely tragic. When you open a door in a person's psyche and push us to consider what it may feel like to die, you have pushed us into a dark place, and sometimes that could lead a person to suicide. 2 options, I told the man tied down. Repent, or we'll leave you here for 1,000 years. Now what do you choose? I'll repent, said the dream sorcerer. We untied him and let him go. Now I walked onwards with the Divine One and the awakened wonders, where we ascended upwards to the legion of the powerful women on the first level of the underworld. And while I held the flaming sword, the queen came closer. This level of the underworld held the masculine souls that were trapped in desire, but I was not afraid of her anymore.
"What do you want?"
asked the queen. "I want that which is true."
"Do you?"
she asked. "Release them now. Let these tired men go. Even if they're trapped in desire, the longer you keep them stuck, the less they will grow."
"How do you figure that?"
she asked. I raised the golden key so that all the women could see. The dragon named Satan is no longer in charge, and now you will obey the eye of providence. God favors our undertakings. This is the new order of the ages.
"What do I get if I let these men go?"
said the queen who ruled over the first level of the underworld. "We get a chance for these men to become honorable in our world, and so the masculine soul can then be healed. Unless these men are free, they will remain trapped and caught until they can work with what they feel. A woman such as yourself will only be truly satisfied in a great union. So you deserve a soul that is worthy and true. You must release them, and this is what you must do." She waited as her eyes gazed into me as if I was see-through. "What do you want?" I asked her.
"I want you,"
said the queen.
"I will release these men, but I will not let them get their desires. That is, unless they can see the true nature of the feminine essence. And everywhere they go, women everywhere will be their teachers. And so, what I truly want is to be the earthly leader."
Now she looked at the sword in my hand.
"I want your sword, and although I may be fierce, I am someone you can trust in."
She said. "Why's that?"
"Because I want justice,"
said the queen of the underworld.
"You can have what you need and desire, but you must make the appropriate offering. Shift on focusing on what isn't working to handing over all concerns as a prayer to the divine. All can then be resolved and shall manifest according to loving and generous grace.
But how can I trust you?
You are forging an authentic path. In support of that, you shall attract great blessings that will benefit all beings. To live a spiritually and creatively self-directed life takes incredible strength and trust in yourself. Remember that the promise of your sacred success is being fulfilled through every challenge and blessing. You can trust in what you were born to accomplish,
said the queen of the underworld. But I can't give you this sword. It can't be held by anyone else.
I know. That's why I'm going to merge into your left side, and together we'll exist as one united self,
she said.
They call it Ardha Narishvara, which means the Lord who is half woman. If you want these men to heal, and if you want union for our world, the true king must be half boy and half girl,
said the queen. On one condition, I am going to marry the golden maiden, and if I do, what will your purpose be?
I'll be the queen of swords. I'll be the harbinger of justice to set all souls free,
she said. And so I agreed. Then all the spirits of the underworld were released. Now anyone who had the courage to heal and answer the call was allowed to proceed. Within an instant, I felt her pass through my left eye, where she would reside. This balance of unity was fascinating, as I was very much aware of my own two separate but united sides. I held the sword in my right, because I wasn't sure how she would use it, and so she was filled with raw power that could spread throughout the earth, and so many had reason to fear this. Time had come for all of us to pour out into the wild, and all the lost souls were free to do as they wished. But still I carried the body of the great white buffalo in my arms, who I so dearly missed. The dark mountain that was once covered in smog was now filled with clear air, as if it could finally breathe. It was obvious that nature would reclaim this space with loving kindness in an offering to the wildlife, the creatures, and the people, so that we would find what we need. As we walked into the forest a good distance, I recognized this natural space as the divine garden of life. This would be the place where the white buffalo would be laid to rest. And so for a final time, I looked into the white buffalo's eyes. Then something miraculous happened. It was as if I could hear advice he wished to give. And so the white buffalo whispered,
"You will find yourself in a position of dignity in the end."
In preparation for the white buffalo's next journey, I did just as the native men and women of the earth would do. And so I offered the sacrificed buffalo to all beings as nourishment and food. Then for his bones, I collected them as tools, and some were made into knives and arrows. And finally, I took the white coat and horns, so that I could wear the layer of his wisdom to honor my ultimate hero. When there was nothing left of the white buffalo, I journeyed to a large rock that had been exposed in the ground, and so I used his bones and began to etch the wisdom of this story where I had turned my life around. The entire time I scribbled the story, I felt the white buffalo watching over. And after it was all written and done, I knew that soon it would be time to go off in search of my true lover. It is hard to leave behind what we cherish, and so I sat upon that rock for 3 days and nights, wearing the white fur and horns of the buffalo. I knew he was with the spirit, but it was still hard to understand how I was left living in the ways of the material world. With all the things we can feel and experience, often these deep journeys can make us feel alone. Rare are the souls who don't chase money, fame, and status, where they enter into the sacred burn. Through the fire of transformation, we allow things to happen naturally, and so this is the great work that will allow the divine garden of life to return auspiciously. Now, after all I'd been through, I felt I would need to go back to work. I had little money, no career, but yet, within this inner garden, I had a set of beautifully cultivated stories that I called art. I could not fathom selling my soul, so maybe I was called to live as half man and half woman. I knew there was work for me to do, and I was thankful that I knew where to find the divine sacred garden. As I left the story in the rock behind, there was a letter I wanted to write to myself, and so I pretended I was writing to me from the white buffalo, which could have been a version of my higher self. Dear James, I am so proud of you and all that you've been through. Someday, you'll look back and remember that the darkest moments were simply preparing you for the biggest breakthroughs. Remember, there's no need to worry. After all, even life will come to fade. But never forget that the real purpose of life is what we shared and what we give away. When you're older, you'll remember that what you did for art, truth, and poetry was by far the biggest gift you've left behind. And this pursuit was worth it, because in the end, you gave everything you had for what we set out to discover and find. Know that the journey wasn't easy, but it was worth it in the end. And when you're old, you'll celebrate all the times you felt like you were going to break, because instead, we found a way to bend. Be kinder to others. When you get to the last chapter of your life, you'll understand just how much suffering the world goes through. Be humble and gentle with all that you think, imagine, and do. Remember that love is not about what you get, but rather it's about what you give and how you serve others. And after all this time, you'll see it was worth it to dedicate yourself to one person, and there you'll live in union with your true lover. You can't see it now, but someday you'll be seated in the great garden with everything you need in a state of dignity, peace, and ease. And there, your family will be happy and healthy. I hope you smile when you read this and you think of who you used to be. Don't give up on anyone, for everyone is a unique aspect of you. Love all, serve all, remember God, and of course, don't ever forget to tell the truth. I know you're eager to find the perfect career and support the world's needs, but remember that everything happens for a reason, and when you're older, the work you did in the name of faith and art will lead you to provide for everyone. Within every problem and challenge lives a hidden secret and lesson. Never forget that every curse does in fact hold a great blessing.